What's going on beyond FOMO and Koinos communities? This very AMA or interview is with Andrew, who is the CEO of Koinos Group. Now we dive into Koinos, the free to use blockchain. Free to use. Interesting. Now, obviously, one big thing I want to get across right away is that Koinos has basically gone what's called Mainnet. That means that this is not available on Ethereum, Polygon, MATIC, Binance Smart Chain, Cardano, whatever. It's its own blockchain. Extremely important to understand, right? Before we also get into this interview, I would like to remind everybody that me and myself at Beyond FOMO, I like to provide educational material, content to bring on the masses into the crypto space, not just dealing with this whole, echo chamber of everybody else. So I do want to invite you to join the official Beyond FOMO group and to follow us throughout social media. I have all the links here as well as the description below. So without further ado, I'm going to have a quick disclaimer and then we're going to jump right into the interview. See you guys there. Beyond FOMO and Koinos community, we got an awesome AMA or interview lined up with Andrew, who is the CEO of Koinos Group. Give us a brief 30-second elevator pitch as to what Koinos is about.
I can do it in 5 seconds. It's the world's first and only free to use blockchain. That's it. It's the only free to use blockchain in the world. And there's obviously a lot to unpack there. And there's plenty of other innovations like proof of burn as a consensus algorithm, which we're also the first to do. Our universal language support and our infinite upgradability. Those are some additional unique value propositions within that protocol, of which I'm not the CEO. I don't control it. Koinos Group doesn't control it. It's fully decentralized. It's been fully decentralized since December of 2022. But at the end of the day,
decentralized aspect, we're going to definitely dive into that a bit later, because that is obviously a big component, especially when we hear regulations, compliance, all this kind of stuff. Being decentralized is a huge plus.
Yeah, absolutely. And not ICOing, which we didn't do either.
So can you actually tell us a little bit about yourself and the team? So when I was looking through the Koinos website, it seems like a lot of the developers or part of the team was from Steam.
Yeah, so we all worked together at a company called Steemit, which was the company that developed the Steem blockchain, which was the world's first feeless blockchain. Yeah, one time it was worth $2 billion. So I was actually brought on as a community manager, but after 4 years there, I was head of marketing and communications. So I spent 4 years working with these engineers, working with that community and really learning blockchain development and dApp development from the inside. And my teammates, who were the software engineers behind that blockchain, they learned blockchain development and architecture by getting their hands dirty with the technology, actually building
the only way
and
to learn it by
scaling
diving into it.
the Steem blockchain.
So that's the best place to learn it.
Yeah, exactly. One of my co-founders, a guy named Michael Vanderberg, single largest code contributor to both the Steem and Hive blockchains. He actually started at Steemit as an intern. They hired him to test the Steem blockchain before it was released. So, he barely knew anything about blockchain, but his whole professional life was learning. And then, he basically rebuilt that blockchain. And so, so after we left that project, we were that team. We were that company. By the end, we were literally 90% of the payroll. And what's really cool to see is that now other people from the company, like our head of engineering, who didn't start Koinos Group or anything, he's started up a company on Koinos called Collection with a K, which is a gasless NFT marketplace. And so there's a lot of people from that world have now come over to Koinos, which is a great thing to see.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I'm just a big believer in the educational aspect, but you guys learn the hard way and perhaps the best way. And that's just by diving in and going through anything and everything.
I think it's priceless. And when I look at the decisions that a lot of other projects make, and granted, I'm not in their room, but the way it often looks to me is I'm like, you've never built a blockchain before.
Yeah,
And you've never run an application on a blockchain. That's actually the superpower that we have that nobody cares about, nobody understands. I've mentioned this a million times. But okay, so you
well, for
built a
now,
blockchain.
because a lot of people are
For
talking about memes and stuff, but eventually
yeah.
we'll come back to full utility and actual use cases.
Yeah, well, yeah, and even memes like crypto kitties were a meme NFT thing, but they're also a DApp and they hit scaling constraints and then they failed effectively because there are very few people who have this two-sided experience of blockchain development and DApp development because the
Sure.
Steam blockchain was both a DApp and a blockchain. And so you can see when looking at other projects like, oh, you've never built a blockchain before, you've never built a DApp before. One or both is very often the case because if you're a blockchain engineer, but you're not building your blockchain for developers, it's not going to be very good for developers, is it? You
True.
know, and if you're not building with that knowledge, and you could get around that by being very actively engaged with developers and inviting their feedback into your blockchain, but you never see that either,
Well,
unfortunately.
to add to that note, there's a lot of people that are in the space that are also just, and the term is called forking, right? Or duplicating
Mm,
an existing blockchain. So there's a lot of developers that are out there that are just known for really kind of just duplicating things instead of actually developing their own. So that
yeah,
actually leads
absolutely.
us, that will lead us into our next topic, which is actual mainnet. So this is another term, mainnet, right? So when Koinos first started, it was on Ethereum, so it was an ERC20 token, but now you guys actually have your own blockchain. So now your own blockchain that's basically talking about, Bitcoin itself, Ethereum, MATIC, Cardano, so forth. So now we have Koinos, right? You have your own block explorer, you have your own, I guess, form of gas, right? So mana. So that's how everything is feeless, right?
Hmm.
That's one big thing we want to get across. This isn't something you're going to go on an exchange just to get an ERC20 version. It's your own blockchain.
Yes, yes. Own blockchain
And you
and
got to have
the
real developers for that. That's a,
uh,
that you need that.
yes.
Uh,
Yes, absolutely. And there are very few people. Well, what you really need are software engineers. And one of my mini crusades in life is establishing the distinction between software engineers and developers. But that's for another time. Uh, as
I'm
far
with
as the
you on
main,
that. I think that there's only really a
yeah,
select few of true
yeah,
blockchain based developers, put it that way, in the entire world.
yeah. Well, and engineers
And
have
are
to
very expensive.
understand. Yeah, engineers have to understand how computers work from the metal up. Developers don't have to and don't want to and shouldn't need to, but it's very different skill sets. And so you have a lot of people being like, I wrote an Ethereum smart contract so I can build a blockchain.
Yeah.
That's like saying I wrote an iOS app so I can write a mobile operating system. They're
True.
just a liar. You don't need to evaluate the truth value of that statement because they are a liar. Um, but as far as the launch and stuff, yeah, we did something fairly innovative and I think novel in the space. I haven't seen anybody else do this, but you have this challenge. You want to launch a platform fully decentralized,
Mhm.
but if you tell everybody we're going to launch this amazing decentralized application, buy this token from us, you are raising money from the public and you're also creating an obligation. There's a whole slew of bad consequences to taking that approach. So what we did is we said, look, we're building a new blockchain framework. We don't even know what the mainnet is going to be like because we're preoccupied with free to use,
Mhm.
infinitely upgradable, and infinitely upgradable. We want to create a new type of blockchain that can evolve rapidly because everything is implemented as smart contracts. And then we will release a mainnet based on this framework that will evolve, that will
Mhm.
itself be evolving. And so what we're releasing now on Ethereum is a token that anyone can mine and this token will be snapshot and used to initialize the new blockchain. And so this is a fully decentralized launch of the token that then jumpstarts a totally new blockchain. And so it's decentralized from the very beginning. And so that's the explanation between our fairly unique history. A lot of the times when people kind of look at the chart of coin or look at individual moments in the history of Koinos, they're confused. But once they understand that story of trying to start decentralized from the very beginning, launching through proof of work mining and then snapshotting into the mainnet launch, they tend to get very excited about the whole thing.
I was reading that also on your site. So that's on the FAQ section. I'll put those links below. So for those that want to dive into more about the project, aside from all the other links, but that is a huge component that the team didn't have like their own distributed funds. There was no ICO. So when we're talking about decentralization, it doesn't just come from the smart contract aspect. It does also come from also the financial and the very, very start, right? So to know that the team was basically just like everybody else in the space, whatever they got, they have. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. We spent 2-3 years of our lives building it for free. And in fact, we spent $800,000 of our own money building this company, building the protocol, acquiring the token through mining and open market purchases. So we actually are quite in the hole.
You're self-invested. That's what we like
Yeah.
to hear. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's the other part
Exactly.
that is extremely important. You want to know that the team and everybody is in here for the long run. This isn't just another hobby, right? This is a real business. This is a real company, and that's extremely important as well.
I think so. Yeah. You nailed it.
One big thing we had mentioned, feeless. So could you please explain that aspect? Because there is another term called, or what you guys coined, mana. So MANA. We're not talking about like decentralized mana. We're talking about mana
Yeah.
as in like the process in which everything is being handled.
Yeah, mana is in as in like health or stamina in a video game. And there are lots of video games that use mana. That's what inspired our use of that term. Mana is the system that enables Koinos to be not just feeless, but free to use. And that's another term that, as far as I know, we've coined because it takes fearlessness to a new level. And so would you like me to explain quickly how the mana system works,
Oh
and
yeah.
I can
But
cover those
before
cover those
before you
things?
actually go into that,
Yeah.
um, I want everybody to also understand that, or we actually saw this influx of like metaverse, right? So it's the topic of metaverse and then Web3 gaming. But a lot of people also forget to understand that when these games do get put onto the blockchain, yeah, there's fees, right? You want to be able to transfer tokens back and forth or whatever their ecosystem is. But the fact that you guys made this fee-less makes it more adaptable and actually able to further evolve on your blockchain, which is huge. So these games are not incurring that kind of a fee, but also actually the players, right? And I know that there's more to blockchain than just games, but I just want to highlight that one aspect of just the fees.
Well, no, I mean, I'm really glad you brought up gaming and the metaverse because we think that
And
Koinos is
NFTs.
perfect. Yeah. Um, yeah, we think Koinos is perfect for gaming, the metaverse. NFTs are going to play a big component there. Um, and in fact, we are targeting our product development at game developers, in particular indie game developers, because we think the Mana system is so perfect for those applications. And this also highlights the distinction between free to use and feeless,
Yeah.
because there are a number of older feeless chains. Steam was one of them. Um, and we're like, this is great. It's feeless. Everybody should want to build on this. All these games should want to build on this. But you still have to acquire the token. But what we
Mm.
saw was you had to buy accounts, or you had to pay for accounts. You had to acquire the token, and then you had to stake the token, and now it's feeless. And all of those steps wind up totally negating the benefits that you get from feelessness to the point where people didn't even feel like it was feeless. They're like, I still got to buy the token. And so
It
that's when
was a
we
barrier to
realized,
entry.
yeah, it's all barriers to entry, right? It's that at the end of the day, it's all barriers to entry, and every app benefits from the lowest possible barriers to entry. There's like, you should be always trying to remove barriers to entry. None are really acceptable. And so, yeah, from that experience, we were like, well, no matter what, develop creating accounts has to be free. Um,
Well, you made
the
it so that the whole onboarding experience is just more seamless. That's kind of what it's about, and not
it
just for
it needs to be
those that are
frictionless.
building onto it, but everybody else after that.
Yeah, you have to be able to get onboarded to the blockchain and begin using the application without acquiring any tokens at all. And that's what the Mana system enables.
Okay.
And it doesn't say to the developer, well, just eat the costs, because that's the way that every other blockchain does it. Is they say, well, we make it easier for you, the developer, to eat the gas fees. But no, that's not how Koinos works. You don't eat the Mana fees. Every coin token contains one mana. Mana is a property of the coin token. It's not a fungible token itself. As you use the blockchain, the mana gets consumed and the token that contained that mana gets locked for 5 days. At the end of 5 days, it gets unlocked and the mana has regenerated.
Okay.
Um, but
That's
you
the
can
burning
also,
aspect. Yep.
no, it's the burning mechanism is part of the consensus algorithm. That's a common source of confusion, but it's totally unrelated. The
Okay.
mana mechanism is a decentralized method for charging users in opportunity cost by algorithmically locking and unlocking the coin token. So
Okay.
that's key to making this system work, is separating consensus and yield generating activities.
Mhm.
That's consensus, that's proof of burn. You burn your coin, which means burning the mana. So now you can't use that mana for free transactions.
Mhm.
You're forced to make that choice. This is another key distinction between previous feeless models where you staked, which was bad user experience, and then you got everything. You got the keys to the kingdom. You influence governance upgrades. You get block
Well,
rewards.
especially for the
You
whales. Yeah. The whales took advantage of
exactly.
everybody from that point going forward.
Exactly. So what Koinos does is it says you want yield, great. Burn coin, burn a ton of coin. Now earn it back through block production. You want to use the blockchain? Use the blockchain. Your coin gets locked. While it's locked, you can't engage in yield generating activities with those tokens. And
I
so,
like that approach. So yeah, the opportunity aspect of it, pretty interesting. Good twist.
yeah, yeah, it's really all about opportunity cost. And at the end of the day, the critics who say there's still a fee are not wrong. The fee is an opportunity cost.
Mhm.
If you want, the key to delivering a pleasant user experience is to obfuscate fees through opportunity cost. That's it. That's the central premise. Obviously, there's costs. The
Mhm.
costs need to be borne. But if you do it through fees, you create a bad UX, you create barriers to entry, and you prevent exponential growth.
Sure.
So the
I'm
challenge
a
is,
believer of that.
well, but yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, so the question then becomes, okay, how do we solve that problem? Opportunity cost. Koinos is based on that thought experiment of how can we create as good a use as possible, and it will be. But the thing was that from our Steam experience, nobody complains about the fees on. Nobody's like, oh, this platform actually has fees. The model that's at the heart of Koinos was running in Steam for a couple of years. There was the first model, the bandwidth model, which was okay, but it didn't scale well. That was the big problem. And then Michael actually totally re-architected the feeless model through something called resource credits, and then you never heard people complaining. There were no scaling challenges.
Okay.
There were no outages. People, when they wanted to use, they were able to use because it really efficiently motivates people to spread the load, because you don't you self-regulate. You don't perform that transaction when you know a ton of your tokens are going to get locked. It's just, you don't even think about it. It all just works. But if you look at Hive, for example, you don't see people complaining about scaling constraints, despite the fact that there's tons of transactions happening, and it's not some super, high tech sharded modular blockchain or anything. And a lot of that comes down to the resource model that was implemented in there and how effective it is at creating just a really positive user experience. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can get out, and this is actually another area where we improved over Steam, where it feels a lot less like an opportunity cost and a fee if you know that within a very low amount of time, you can always liquidate your tokens.
Sure.
And that's another
I'm just
reason.
also
Yeah,
appreciating just the aspect of working with Steam. So you guys also learn from all the prior
yeah,
mistakes or opportunities from there to then also implement within Koinos. So you guys had the benefit of it.
absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I often say that if you want to know, you know, the list of things that we felt were wrong with Steam, just read the Koinos white paper. Just look at Koinos.
So
It
Koinos is just
is
a
literally,
fix aspect, fixing part.
yeah, yeah, it's just a laundry list of, oh, these were the things that made Steam, that limited Steam, that made it not an ideal platform developers. And this isn't to knock Steam or Hive. Koinos is a platform aimed at enabling more and better apps like Hive. Like Hive can run on Koinos.
Sure.
So you can get more upgradable, more scalable, feeless applications and fee-based applications running on Koinos. It's not an application-specific social blockchain. It's a general purpose blockchain that's intended to give developers the greatest range of flexibility in how they build their decentralized application. But it has to include like if you can't build
Yeah.
feeless or free to use applications on your platform, it's not as accessible as it could. It's not as flexible as it could be. You're missing out on a huge market, we think.
Sure. I like how even though you are getting more in depth about I guess the behind the scenes aspects, you guys still know your specific niche within the space. You're not trying to target everybody, right? You have your specific sectors that you want to really get into.
Yeah, well, yes and no.
Okay, we can
We're
challenge
just
that.
trying. We're just trying to target all of Web2 developers,
Okay.
as opposed to every other project, which is going after this tiny group of existing Web3
Well, it's like that
entre.
weird echo chamber. Yeah, get out of that.
Yeah, yeah. There's millions of developers who know JavaScript and C++ and who are used to building applications a certain way, and they're totally unserved by the existing blockchain protocols. And that's not the case for Koinos. Web2 developers love working with Koinos.
True. All right. I know we could get into the whole tokenomics of it more, but that kind of stuff, I feel like it could kind of also get a little dry. But all that's on the website, right? We could always view it. Everybody could go check that out. I did
And
see.
so far everything's in the white paper too. I'm very proud of the white paper. Covers all the most important aspects, including the tokenomics, because the tokenomics are so simple. Bitcoin, you know how Bitcoin launched? That's how Coin launched.
Okay. I saw a recent, I guess it was like a blog post, and it has one of my favorite questions in there. It basically says when marketing.
Mm.
So that's
Mhm.
on the site now. But that does lead us into the next couple of questions that I have, and that's the short term and long term goals. So short term being a month to say like 6 months out, long term being a year to 2 years. Where do you see Koinos short term?
So marketing in the context of a truly decentralized blockchain protocol is a really interesting and challenging discussion, and just problem to solve. Um, I think we can solve it. I think we're well on our way to solving it. But it's not, it's funny. We get asked all the time when marketing, and for years now, our standard response, I mean the community's response, has been, we always go, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" And
Yeah,
they
so
never
that is an
haven't.
interesting, like, catch-22 about something being decentralized, and then who would be the core person to then do the marketing for that? But then, is that then decentralized or is it centralized?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. There's this interesting tension where people go, "We want this to be truly decentralized, but we want you, Koinos Group, to do XYZ." And and we get it, and I'm not like blaming those people, but we did launch the way we did for reasons. But at the end of the day, I do want to answer the question. So we have announced our 6 month plan, and this was about a month ago. So we've got 5 months left in the strategy. And at
okay.
this point, we're all, the blockchain is in startup territory. Koinos Group is in startup territory. I don't think it's wise as an entrepreneur. I don't think it's actually wise to think too much about beyond a 6 month time horizon, because then you're not being agile. And
I could say
Koinos
in
is
this space specifically, I guess, with the way things are going, we don't even know what's gonna happen a month from now. And I'm sure you could
exactly.
agree, even from Steam and your past experience,
Oh,
a week in this
absolutely.
space is like years anyway.
Exactly, exactly, especially in this space. But even in tech generally, I think, beyond a 6 month time horizon borders on self delusion. But we have but we have thought beyond the 6 month thing. So the 6 month target is 20 dApps, 100,000 users. 20 dApps, 100,000 users, and
Which is
we've been
trackable, right? So you could have your own analytics, you could see that happening.
This is very trackable, and it'll be more trackable as we move forward with the marketing campaign. Um, the important thing to remember is that Koinos Group is a startup in the Koinos ecosystem, just like everybody else. So the challenge that we set for ourselves is, how do we, but the unique position that we're in, and the nice thing about the situation that we've created for ourselves, is that while we're a startup with a revenue generating product called Koinos Pro, which is kind of like Infura, but for Koinos. It
Okay.
has infrastructure, network resources, um, freemium tier, subscription tiers, so that a developer can just come into Koinos Pro and fire up an application in no time. But obviously, the secret to Koinos Pro's capabilities is the Koinos blockchain. And so that creates an opportunity for us to market Koinos by marketing our product, which is which my primary focus is at the moment, is figuring out how do we market our product effectively, efficiently, right? We have to be capital efficient because we did an ICO.
Uh,
We have to be a weird
Even
thing
more
called
so.
capital
Yeah.
efficient. We actually have to be effective with our capital allocations and
You
make
guys
sure
actually
that
have a,
they're.
a real burn rate, not just on the token.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's
Oh
a real
yeah.
business.
We have a burn rate.
So there's one
Right.
thing
So
real
we.
quick I just want to go
Mm,
back to. So that is, I guess, the Koinos, the Pro. So is that the Pro Fusion? Is that the same thing, or is that something different? Koinos Pro. Because I'm just looking at the
no.
roadmap on the actual site, but I see like you guys have Pro, like pay tiers, Mana Fountain, and so forth. But regardless, the one thing that I heard from you was that keyword revenue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That in itself is extremely important because just on this topic, if you guys aren't able to generate any form of revenue to further support everything, Koinos is, you
Yeah.
guys need that. So seeing
Yeah.
that there's a
Yeah.
freemium and a premium part is extremely important.
Yeah, so we come at that from two sides, right? First, we made the blockchain so upgradable and so accessible to developers that they wouldn't need such a strong involvement from a core team, which we view as another vector for centralization. Then the second way that we approach it is through building a revenue generating product, being very open about these plans and making that product about giving developers amazing tools. So we're building something for developers that'll help them build on Koinos. But we also built Koinos so that it doesn't need such tight handholding. But absolutely, you're not a company, you're not a sustainable organization if you don't have a source of revenue. So that's something that we were very focused on from the beginning, very open about, so everybody understands this aspect of what we're doing. And as far as the fusion and the monofound, these are all features of Koinos Pro. They're ultimately about improving the developer experience, making it easier, faster, and cheaper for them to spin up decentralized applications. But it's all through Koinos Pro. Even Koinos Play is really just a more developer friendly interface over Koinos Pro that makes it more accessible to game developers.
Okay. I know a lot of listeners might be thinking about still going back to, I guess, Ethereum or any other networks that are out there, but I've seen the recent trend of like the test nets of Ethereum, like that specific token actually like increased in value. So when we're
Yeah,
talking about development fees, yeah, like there are faucets out there, not to get too technical, but I know there's developers that are out there that wait for these faucets or just go out and get this token. But there is now a fee to actually even just develop on these other blockchains. So knowing that Koinos is fee list, even just build on, right? I mean, just think about just that specific aspect. When you talk to a developer, would you rather invest in another platform or invest in yourself by just going onto Koinos and then building whatever it is?
I
That's a huge
love
thing.
that way of putting it. I love that way of putting it. That's exactly right. On Koinos, the whole thing is set up so that you're investing in yourself, and if you create value, you get value. But a lot of people come in and look at it like, I want to put in money and have a guaranteed return. And it's like, what did you just hear what you said? Like
Basically.
that you want a stock with a dividend? Go to the stock market. This is about building a decentralized platform that is economically sustainable, that will grow exponentially, and that if you put in value, you will get out value. But
Very
if
true.
you're just coming in to be a freeloader, the system will kind of reject you almost like a virus. It's pretty cool, I think,
Uh,
over the
This
long term.
this also goes back to the community efforts, right? So in terms of when marketing, I always do have a good laugh at that, even if a project is centralized or decentralized. But when marketing really does start with basic fundamentals of it's really about the community. You know, the project can only do so much.
Absolutely.
It's all about that organic growth. That's what you want.
Absolutely. And that's actually goes to the heart of what I'm focusing on internally right now. It's how do we learn how to market Koinos Pro? Because we're a startup and we got to learn marketing. And then how do we take that knowledge and make it accessible to the community so that the community can learn market and can become a marketing army? That's a, I might have revealed a little bit there, but like that's kind of the heart of our internal strategy. And how can we bring in the right experts and then make their expertise available to the community? And I'm not talking about people who write Twitter threads about coins.
Yeah,
I'm talking about real experts, real professional marketers who actually know how to increase awareness of a product and generate genuine interest and awareness of a product and a technology.
very true. I might know of one, but we could talk about that
Oh,
later.
please, let's do it. Yeah.
All right. I know that you are, or we are on kind of like a time constraint. Towards the end of the show, I do also want to kind of have some FOMO material towards the end, but I think you also kind of gave us a little bit of that. Um, but I'll still ask it. Is there anything that the Koinos community might not necessarily be aware of, or perhaps something that you guys did actually put out that's public, but doesn't have that attention yet that you might want to kind of put out there now, or for maybe some um, research-based community members to look into more? And I know I'm putting you on a spot, so
No,
if you
no,
don't
it's
want to,
no,
that's
it,
okay.
it's fine. No, we have a very well established and public policy that does not involve releasing private information to exclusive groups. But I can give, I think, something to your community,
Okay.
which is that CoinDX, which will be the first gasless decentralized exchange on Koinos, is launching very soon. It's
Okay.
launching very soon. You know, obviously, this has nothing to do with me. I know the founders, um, and they've, I think, left pretty big hints within our community. But if you're outside of our community, there's probably very low likelihood that you would have ever seen anything that they've said. And I think that this is going to be, um, you know, it, a Dex on Koinos, the first Dex on Koinos coming soon. Could be a big
I think that's
deal.
pretty
I
damn
don't
big. Yeah.
know. I think DeFi is going to be huge on Koinos.
Especially going forward. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think if you could perform the same trades that you were going to perform on Ethereum just on Koinos, think about how more profitable they would be. You know, it could increase the profits through trading
Dramatically.
by more than 100%. You know, so at the very least, it's free money. You know, so absolutely. I mean, and wait, it's a weird thing to focus on, like, but wait till you experience the user experience. Even just transferring tokens between wallets, and I highly recommend anybody do this. And please tell me, tweet at me and say, you know what, that user experience sucked. Download the Condor Chrome extension, get some coin, transfer some coin back and forth, then sell it for all I care. But transferring, 100 coin to another wallet that you have and seeing that 100 coin just get there in practically
Being 100,
instantly.
100, 100 instead of dealing with decimals and all that other stuff and then losing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
probably
and
an
all
amazing
you
feeling.
see, yeah, and then the cool thing that he did in Condor is that you see the mana go down, but then you see it start regenerating. And the other thing I didn't mention, but basically the more coin you have, the faster your mana regenerates. So
Right.
you
Like a
could do a
gamified
coin
experience there.
transfer of $1 million worth, whatever, and it's going to cost a tiny amount of mana, but in a minute you're back at full mana, not 5 days. Um, and it's because the regeneration happens across, whereas the individual tokens are locked. So if I spend one mana, one coin is locked. The regeneration happens across all the tokens, and so that's what creates that effect where it's actually a much faster regeneration. If you spent all the mana, 100 mana, it would take 5 days for all of its regenerate. Anyway, so that experience of like, oh, I just spent 100, I just sent 100 coin. There's no gas fee. I didn't even have to think about the gas fee. It landed there instantly. I went over to the wallet and it was there. And now I'm seeing my mana regenerate. Even as one of the inventors of the blockchain just a couple of months ago, because it only felt real when Mainnet was live.
Right, when you're seeing it.
Even
Yeah.
for me, I was like, that's insane. That,
Well, this
like,
is your
this is gonna
baby. Now
blow
the baby's
people's
walking.
minds.
Yeah. This is like your baby, right? It was like in the infancy stage. It was born. Now it's starting to crawl. And now it's getting ready to run. So we got different life stages right here happening in front of your eyes. So it should be exciting for you. You should be excited.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't be happier with where things are with Koinos and Koinos Group. I mean, it's insanely hard building a startup. It's so hard.
Yeah,
And
just that.
it's excruciating. Which is why most blockchain founders don't do it. They just ICO. But yeah, I couldn't be more proud of what we've built with Koinos and more proud of what we're still building with Koinos Group as a company that I feel is doing something very important in the world.
Very true. Well said. All right. I know you again, time constraints. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. For those that have questions, I'm putting all the links below in the description. I will also have videos just on Koinos showcasing the wallet transactions, everything, so you guys can see it. And just as Andrew said, try it out yourself. What do you have to lose? Pretty damn cool.
Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong. It was great
Andrew,
talking, Jason. Great meeting.
thank you. All right, so what do you guys think? Now, I know that there was a lot of information in here, but this was just a start. You know, I like to have interviews with team members of these projects to learn a little bit more about themselves, and then we'll slowly dive into the projects. There's a lot to learn, but I'll also be making more videos in the future about Koinos. So if you do have any questions, please leave them below in the comments. We'll get you the answers to those right away. As always, hit that like button, subscribe, join us, join the Beyond FOMO community. We're here to help, we're here to educate everybody and to grow crypto the right way. All right, thank you so much. I'll see you guys in future videos.